Okay, Justine Allison.
Yep.
You live and work in a beautiful environment, very rural, surrounded by woodland. Would you say that your surroundings have a bearing on how you make and what you make?
Yes and no. I think I'm quite an urban-minded person. I'm quite building-centric. I am an outdoors person, but not so much in the sort of, I'm not constantly out. I'm not sort of rather be out in a field than in my studio. So I quite like my urban environment. I like being inside as much as I like being outside. I think what I was informed by, which was obviously where I grew up, which was the urban environment in London. There's so many lines, there's so many things that you see that aren't natural anyway in our sort of natural environment, if you know what I mean. I think it does have a bearing. It's weird though, I'd say my work probably got more linear as I moved to the countryside. But then there are lines everywhere.
Yeah.
But there's movement,
And there's light everywhere, albeit differently, coming through.
I find, so where I work in my studio, I have to have a window, I have to be able to look out. I've realised I have to work looking right out, so I need that open, I need that space, and I like seeing the change outside. So yes, it does have a bearing. I probably wouldn't be able to pinpoint it exactly.
Did you have your studio base in London? Did you have a window to look out from?
I had the doors, it was no railway arch. So it was either the doors had to be closed in the winter because it was freezing, really really cold, and it was a shed space. But that was amazing as well. But there was a courtyard, lots of other makers and artists, and it was a great way to start. I loved it.
And when you say you think your work's become more linear, do you refer to the sort of aesthetic, the shape and form of your work, or decoration on your work?
I think everything has changed. It's hard to say because actually when I was in London, because when did I move here? 2003. I'd finished college in 1998. So it's not a massive amount of time from finishing college to starting on my path. So it's a hard one to say whether it's because of moving things changed. I think what changed is when I moved, I was able to work full time, or on mostly full time on it, whereas in London I didn't. I was in the studio quite a lot, but I was also working. So those differences, I think, the more time and more headspace. There's less people, there's less everything around. So I'm taking in more of my environment.
How about the medium? So you work with porcelain,
and
you hand build with porcelain. To those that know ceramic mediums and those that don't, they sort of recognise some real technical challenges inherent in that. What is it about porcelain that attracts you?
It was initially the light, and particularly the one that I use. I mean, when I was at college, I made bone china, and so I was hand building with bone china, which again, not something that you do a lot of. And I really liked it, but it was almost too white. And there was just something about the porcelain, the one that I use, when I started working with it, everything about it felt right, from how I worked with it to the finished firing, the colour of it when it was fired, because I've never used the colour of the clay unglazed is really important, because they can change, and I tried quite a few. And hand building, there's something, I think especially now, it's like having a piece of paper to me. And I can have an idea and I can sort of just do it. So I can roll my clay out. I can roll clay out with my eyes closed and I can feel it. And it's simple to work. There's a lot of technical challenges, especially with the new work. But again, I know the material quite well. So I know when to work, when it's gone too far, when it's too dry, or what I can do with it. But I suppose it's nearly 20 years of hand rolling out clay. That's a long time, really, because I was hand building at college. I did a bit of throwing, which I liked. I wasn't particularly brilliant at it. I liked it though. But I think it is that sort of, it's almost quite immediate. I can roll out, and if I have an idea, I can actually do it. There is preparation, but it's a piece of paper, but it's clay.
Yes, just roll it out, get on with it, experiment. So you do go straight into the clay. Do you ever work with paper?
I do. Yeah, I have done with some of the new pieces with vases, just purely because of angles. I've had to. I don't think I could just go straight in there and go cut it because it just wouldn't work. So I have to start off with, especially if there's 4 sides, I've got to start off. They're all cut out from the same size, but obviously by the time I finish making something, it's going to have altered. It's only these pieces that I've done that with, these new pieces. But again, that's still quite immediate, so I can roll my clay out and I can draw, and then but it's sort of the shape that I want. And sort of try it, and I can go for it. I don't draw the idea down. I draw with the clay. For me, the drawing part, to draw, say if I wanted to draw an idea, it just wouldn't, it's not how I do it.
So for you, that making with the clay is the
That's
immediacy
that's
the thought.
yeah, that's like my drawing with it.
So ideas for your forms, you say you wouldn't draw, you sort of note down ideas. Do you find yourself sketching as part of your practice anyway, out and about?
No, I don't. I mean, I spend a lot of time looking, and I suppose I photograph a lot now, which I suppose is a modern day thing, much more than I used to. I wouldn't say I've ever been a sketcher anyway. It's not something that I like. It's not that I don't like it, and I like drawing, but it's not it's not how I record things. I suppose I write. I it's like thousands of bits of paper. And I find bits of, there's bits on newspaper, because I use a lot of newspaper, and then obviously I can't find the newspaper, but I've realised that's what my mum does as well. It's snippets of things that she's thought of, and then I find that I'm doing the same as well.
Collection.
So, yeah, but then it's almost to sort of write it, and then it's discarded.
Is it the same with photographing then? You just reference you photograph quite a lot. Is that about recording an instant?
Sometimes, yeah, yeah. But again, discard those a bit. You can be quite flippant with it.
Interesting, that use of photography, and as you say, you can discard it or put it to one side. So maybe it's about logging a visual impression, and because you're doing it other than just looking, you're sort of seeing it through a third dimension as well. Does that mean it logs?
I think it becomes something different. But then actually, I'm sort of wondering, because it's done so frequently. I mean, it's quite interesting to just log an image in your head.
Can you tell us a little bit about the forms of your work? So you make a lot of vessels.
Yeah.
And I know you play's the wrong word, explore that balance between form and function.
Yeah.
How do both of those interplay for you in terms of priority?
Probably form over function, but everything on the whole can be used, but it is whether it would or whether somebody, because I find that different people have a different take on my work. Some people just think, if I look at it, I'm going to break it. And other people are very physical with it. It can be used, and that is important, but it's not the priority.
So your use of, because am I right in thinking that some of your vessels are glazed on the inside?
They're pretty much all glazed.
They're all glazed.
Yeah.
And so is that purely thinking about function?
No, because I like the finish of it. And there is something, I have tried things without the glaze in. There probably was an element of function to begin with when I first started sort of making the lanterns. So you there's something about it just makes it feel, it feels more solid to me. Maybe I'm the only one. There's something about it. It's because I think the glaze fits it really well, so it just brings the whole thing together. I tried something the other day because it was a test piece and I didn't glaze the inside and it felt horrible. Yeah, everything about it felt really brittle. So I don't know if it just softens it, the glaze. Even though it's inside, and especially in the vases, it is in the inside. I suppose that's that element of it is functional. Everyone thinks because it's glazed, it's functional. It would be completely vitrified anyway because it's porcelain. And I think within ceramics, it is, they're tactile pieces.
The other forms or methods, if you like, of decoration that you use are very textured and very tactile. Have they come about through a lot of exploration and experimentation over the years?
I suppose it's experimenting on things, and it's actually with the stripes, because I'm using an underglaze, it's always you're going to feel it because it's on the surface. Since I've been doing the stripes, there's obviously a lot more going on, so it's got busier. My work. It's not quite busy, but yeah. Whereas before I didn't use any colour. When I first left college, there was no colour, no nothing. It was all on the surface.
It's interesting you say my work's become busier. Because to my eye, it's all about perspective, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so calm.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting because it is incredibly fine in terms of that decoration, and you must have a lot of patience, I think, in doing that.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot there, but the overall impression or impact it has is one of calmness,
Yeah,
serenity.
yeah.
Is that, would you say you're calm as you're making it? Do you feel peaceful?
I am quite a calm maker. I'm quite a quiet maker. I can be quite methodical about certain things. I listen to the radio. I like that. I talk to myself when I'm working. I think most people who work on their own probably do. I think I have my daily rituals when it's not certain things that happen at certain times. Probably the most controlled space and time as a person that I am in the studio, whereas everything else around me seems slightly chaotic. Yeah, it is calm in my studio. It's messy, but it's calm. But that's fine. I like my mess. I mean, it's not very big, so it's got everything. But I really love my space. It makes me feel it's very much mine. I think that it just works for me. So it is calm. I mean, I get there's some swearings involved if I'm trying something and it's gone wrong, or I've opened the kiln and something's gone wrong, and it's just it generally I know what's happened and it's generally my fault. And it's like, I'm not frenetic when I work. It's just I'm quite methodical, and yeah, I have to be with the dippers and the stripe socks. I probably could go insane at times because the masking tape's the same colour as the clay. I have lots of glasses everywhere in the house now because I can't see anything anymore.
And you mentioned you referred to colour, and colour sort of crept in.
Yeah.
Was that a conscious decision, oh, I'll bring some colour in, and what those colours were? Or was that?
They're just colours that I really like, but they're still very subdued. Even when I had the yellowy colour, which I really, really like, but it was quite different. But it's almost sort of, I think it's the thing, if I want to try something, I'm just going to do it. And that, I suppose that maybe that's a slightly stubborn, I'm just going to do it.
And how about, I'd say because of the calmness, purity of form, somehow your work is very precious. And in some of your pieces now you use gold. How, again, was that a conscious decision? I'm just going to try this?
The gold, strangely, is come from, I've done calligraphy since I was 11. I'm rubbish at it now because I've sort of let it slip. And I used to go to LCP and do calligraphy course with a wonderful lady. And it was mainly beginners, but because we'd done stuff, and I did illuminating with her. So I did old-fashioned proper illuminating with gesso and sort of using gold leaf. I used to use more sort of text and writing in work than I do now. And it was almost wanting to find this bit of gold that I loved doing. And it took me a while to accept that I couldn't do it how I did it. Because you can't burnish it, you can't do that thing that you do on gesso and on paper and parchment. It doesn't work because you're gilding on glass. And it took a really lovely gilder going, no, you've done a really good job for me to slightly accept, because it wasn't, at first it wasn't how because I wanted this burnished, I wanted it to be like it was on gesso and I couldn't do it. I think it was talking to other people and then doing a few and suddenly realised I'm really loving the whole process as well. So it's actually an accent that they've kind of come from my gilding days.
Gold leaf, it adds a real luminescence or another dimension, if you like. And light, you talked about, I mean, light's very important to you, that you notice and how you are sort of every day, really, in terms of responding, and very important in your work. So as you're creating a piece, will you use the light, hold it to the light to see how it's going to work with light?
Really not so much anymore. I mean, because obviously when I'm working with it, it's not translucent. I've actually got some pieces that are biscuit fired at the moment. I'm really enjoying them, but obviously they need to be fired. But that again is going to change. There's something about the solid nature of them. Yeah, it's just that it's part of this sort of process of working, and that's I think it's informing things. So, but I do have, obviously when I'm making, I do have an idea of where things are, how the light's going to work, because I know how thin it is and where you get sort of light coming through and how they feel. Because they've now become not just light, the light around us, it's light as the other lighters in how they feel, because they've become lighter in places. So it's everything.
Because of that thinness, physical thinness,
Which something I have to be careful of. pieces because it can go too far.
So how, in terms of the darker, so some of the new pieces, darker pieces, if you like.
Yeah.
It's just interesting you said then about that. Use the word solid.
Yeah.
Solidity of form, and they do have a sort of far more solid feeling. Yeah. That's intentional?
It is intentional. It's quite they've still got lots of movement because I'm still obviously making them in the way I make my work, and I don't think I could make something that. I think as soon as you get clay that thin, it's going to move, whatever, and they're high fired. But I really like the quality I'm enjoying that as well as the sort of having the two things together. So they're still very much early kind of work in progress.
How about spoons?
Spoons.
Tell us about spoons.
Like
when was your first spoon?
I'm trying to think, when was I made a little gold spoon. I think it was when Cherry was quite young. She was about 3 or 4. And I made a spoon with gold on it.
You still got it?
I don't know. I could probably read lots of things into my doing spoons. It is a vessel. It was just, and also they're really funny. I think I've always like whenever I've gone on holiday, some people want to go off to check out fashion shops. I'm like, take me to a market and give me tea towels and wooden spoons, because I like a good quality tea towel and a really nice wooden spoon. So I think that's where it's come. You know, again, it's something that's a practical item, made impractical.
And do you use a mould or a template for your spoons?
Mine are all sort of lovely bits of cardboard, generally an old catalogue of some kind from something that I've been in. And I've got a wooden spoon, so I just cut them out and I just press it in. I literally just press it in. So I've got the bowl, and then I make little props and I prop it up because I quite like the handles to be really flat. And then that really sticking up, so it's quite impractical. But they don't, again, you know, you can get some great movement in them. They won't ever stay what they are.
And you've introduced some decoration and some colour. Also, the spoons, you've introduced a different material. So you mentioned earlier about twine being bound around some of the handles. Is that just experimentation? Because it's a real contrast.
It is a real. I really want. I've been thinking about it for quite a while. And I think it was because they're so thin, and it suddenly makes it feel sort of very, very different. And I suppose it was taking the impracticality of it a little bit further as well, because it's using hemp twine, so it's suddenly not even something you could delicately use and then wash. You kind of really can't use it. And I really like the contrast because I've done it on ones where I'd wiped the glaze away a bit, some of the stripes. So I'd kind of destroyed the stripes a bit. And then it's very tightly bound. I think a lot of it is quite aesthetic, yeah.
Spoon's one of the oldest tools known to man, isn't it? Something very fundamental about it.
They're amazing. There is the spoon. It's such a great thing in all its forms, whether it can be used or not. Because actually, lots of people making spoons, and I'd say they can probably all be used, but with caution. But that's fine. I went to this amazing car boot, was it last year? And there was somebody selling their collection of commemorative teaspoons from everywhere, hundreds, and I've got some, and I quite like. I've got some Tower of London spoon to do. It's not meant to be used, but it's so that whole thing. The gamma of work where spoons have gone. So I'm just adding to that.
So you've been making for how long?
I finished college in '98, so nearly
20. And obviously plenty of influences, conscious or unconscious, along the way, I suppose. Would you pick out any particular times or experiences where your work has taken not a different direction, but that you could say has immediately affected the direction of your work or not? Be that travel or conversations or...
I don't really know. No. I think there's been so many, probably. I think having the studio, when I first started working in the studio in Beckham, so it was not long after college and sunny out there on your own. I suppose that's when I started hand building the way I hand build now, and that was that was an eye-opening time for me. And I think because of the response, it's also that response that I got to the work that I was making then was really, has a massive impact, because I'm not just making things just for myself. I am definitely making things to be seen.
So you're happy for your work to be shared. How about your tools? Tell us about your rolling pin.
My rolling pin. Don't touch my rolling pin. one with my name written all over it. Yeah. Somebody once borrowed my rolling pin when I was in Peckham in my studio, and I got into the studio to work and couldn't find it anywhere, and then I found it and I went and bought it. I had to go and buy another one because I literally couldn't find it, and then it was found and it had been washed, but it had red clay all over it, and somebody was very flippant about the fact, well, just, you can wash it. No, you can't. Hence I've still got my name on it.
So the rolling pin you've got now, is that the one that was washed?
No.
Or is that
No, that was the
replacement?
Yeah, because the one that was washed I do still have, but it's definitely not, you just don't do it.
So alongside your rolling pin, have you got any other trustworthy tools that you couldn't do without?
I've got this knife that's got a broken blade in it, and I can't do without that. So I dread it's like I'm really careful because I don't want to drop it. But it's the one that I use for doing certain cuts in the clay. And then I've got some craft knives. They're really nice and rusty, but again so it's my rolling pin that I use. I've got several different paintbrushes, a craft knife, I've got a scalpel, and I've got several bits of cardboard that are really important as well, that have things written on them, but they are so I don't have a lot, but they're always to my right when I'm working as well, so I don't really OCD, but yeah.
I was thinking OCD. I was thinking then ritual.
Yeah, it is ritual. I have I've got my rolling pin, yeah. It's all to this side. I know, okay, I'm right-handed, but it's very much the rolling pin goes here, and then I've got my cardboard there that sits under something else. On the odd occasion that I move things because I need to clean that bit. If I've had a bit of a break over Christmas, there's generally quite a lot of cobwebs around, so I have to kind of carefully de-cobweb it. But I don't really. I still just work around it.